Classic
Sticky
Star
here.
Wars.
Just so everybody knows. The first- Well, welcome to Force Connect, the streaming Star Wars show, the original Star Wars fan talk show, live Star Wars fan talk show. Hey, we were one of the first just talk show, whatever. Think of this as Star Wars Sports Radio. I am your host, Pete Fletcher, and I'm joined by my co-host, Chris Ryans. Chris, how's it going, my friend? How are you today?
It's going great, Pete.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
It's going good. Just ready for these hot takes and
I
or bad takes
I know
or bad backs.
bad backs. I know you're aversion to controversy, so this may be a little bit of an interesting evening for you. But you'll notice if you're watching live that Mr. Nick Milkey is not with us tonight. However, we do have what I think is a suitable substitution. My stepson, the legendary, most bombad Scotty J. Rose. Scotty, what's up, man? How are you?
I'm very thankful having my stepdad, and like a traditional stepdad, by the way, we
Yeah.
were talking about Rush and the logos of the Rush albums before
Right.
we went on live. So
Yeah,
just
Be-
know.
because stepfathers, most of them are old enough to like have gone to Rush concerts,
Yes.
and like that's their jam. That's what they do. So
Hey, wait, Rush. I don't know if I ever listened. Did they do that YYZ song?
they
Was that
do,
them?
they
Oh,
do.
yeah.
Okay.
And Tom
Thanks,
Sawyer.
Guitar Hero.
And I'm sorry. There you go.
There you go.
It's the only way I know that one song. Yeah.
Hey, you know what? I'm just happy that you know any of them and that you were able to connect it. That means that I don't know what it means actually, but it whatever. Anyway, we do have a lot to get to tonight. We're going to take your hot takes. About a week ago, I threw up on Twitter just for fun. Tell us what your Star Wars hot takes, not hot cakes, maybe hot cakes. I don't know what you're doing. Now hungry Star Wars hot cakes. But it led to quite a bit of opinion and whatnot. Some were just plain silly, but there were some good ones on there. So what we want to do is we want to talk about those, and of course, we want to get to yours. If you are watching us live, we're going to put the link into the chat right away so you can join us at any time during the show. We want your hot take, crazy or not. We definitely want it. We also want to take a couple minutes to talk about that Mandalorian trailer, which dropped in the Buccaneers game. Who did they play, Chris? Did they play some?
They played the Cowboys.
They played the Cowboys. Yes, they did.
Is that who they played? That was
Yep.
awesome.
Oh man, this is why I'm glad we're recording tonight, not tomorrow, because I got Giants and Eagles tomorrow, and
Yeah.
by the
Both
time
of
when this drops on Monday, I'm either going to be really happy or just shocked, frankly, because I don't see the Giants pulling this one off. But I'm an optimist. But before we get to all that, I got to do a little bit of housekeeping. First of all, make sure to like and subscribe to this video and to this channel. Don't subscribe to the video, subscribe to the channel. You can catch us on Twitter and TikTok at StreamingSW, and on Instagram, we are at Streaming Star Wars. If that's too much to remember, we'll just go on over to our brand new updated website, which is streamingstarwars.com, and click on your social media icon of choice. While you're there, feel free to click on that merch button and head on over to our store. Grab yourself a new t-shirt, sticker, mug, whatever you like. We just launched the Bad Backs t-shirt. It's on sale this weekend. It's only $14. And while you're there, get information on our Patreon program for as little as $3 a month. You can join us in the live virtual audience when we record around the galaxy. And, you know, it's funny, we're always watching the chat during those, and Greg Grunberg was on a couple weeks ago. He was all over the chat. So it was like he was just hanging out with us. It was a lot of fun. Again, that Patreon program is just $3 a month. So enough trying to sell stuff. Let's get to the toast. Normally Nick does a toast. I'm gonna defer to our guest host. Scotty, do you want to raise a toast to anything in particular?
I would like to raise a toast to friendship. And know it's funny. The last time I think, besides we're all three together, was for Podathon, but before that, it was on Chris's shirt. Look at Chris's shirt, everyone. That's what I'm saying.
Star Wars
I want to
celebration.
toast to future celebrations and experiences we will share in the future, and all I have is some water. But I'm very thankful to be with you guys tonight.
Absolutely.
Very
Cheers.
thankful.
Happy Star Wars.
all that being said, I am happy to be here because I love this chat. We got Benny, we got Dale, we got Brian.
You
This
know,
is fantastic.
we're gonna pull a bomb here. We're gonna
Jeff.
bring the chat up here on the right
Mhm.
side. We're gonna try to keep it up for most of the night so we can hear
Heck yeah.
what you got going on. I just put the link. I think I did. Wait, it's telling me some sort of an error. Oh, I don't know. Oh, look at that.
Well, I can tell you this much. If you want to type your hot take out, you don't feel like coming on screen, by all means. What you're gonna do, you'll pop up right there, and it's great.
Excellent. Yeah, just pop it on there. I don't know what's happening with the chat. I can't get it on the screen, but that's okay. I am trying to get it so that I can let you know what the link is, but whatever. What are you gonna do? It's not letting me.
If you want to message it to me, I can put it through my chat on YouTube.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, I'm going to.
Yeah.
I'll put it here in the private chat. Look at this behind the scenes. This is the way these things work. Can I do it here? Hang on one second.
I'll have you in a second.
So
But everyone, I'm excited to be here tonight, Pete. I enjoy every opportunity I can to hang out with y'all, and I don't see Chris enough. And you know what's funny? Chris and I always talked about. We had a big creative discussion one time. We were like, we should do a pod racer thing, and of course, this week's Bad Batch was like, I know, Chris.
Well,
I see that face.
Listen, Scott, you'll be happy to know that I've written a good part of a treatment for it that you'll have to look over. And now I'm thinking about changing from pod racing to a riot racing.
Riot racing. Oh yes, indeed. Let's see it. It may have gone through. I don't know. Hold on.
yeah, so let's talk about that. We're gonna chat about Mando as well, real quick. But let's talk about the riot racing because I put up a tweet, and of course, because it's Twitter, anything you say gets instantly abused. And I'm actually no, I know it's weird. Twitter's very strange that way. But I posted, why not have just made the riot race pod racing? Why do you, I mean, and somebody had a really good opinion on it, but I want to hear what you guys think. They may not have just gone with good old fashioned pod racing there.
Interesting.
I mean,
Too fast. That was my answer. Pod racers go really fast. Like I think it was 400 to 700 miles per, like really fast. That's why it's impressive Anakin can do it.
Yeah.
But and also the chariots are probably hard to animate. You know what I mean? So that's kind of why I thought that would be the case.
That could be.
I mean, even on our Earth, there are plenty of different types of racing. So on this big ass galaxy, there, why can't there be? And with this, I mean, yeah, it's like when I play, I play Cyberpunk 2077 like it's nobody's business. And there's the particular type of race that's on there where for one of your missions where like you have one person driving, one person hanging outside of the car, shooting down people who are trying to take you out. So it's just another type of racing. Even in the Pete, the comics, they
what are those are those books with the pictures and
the floppy
books.
Mini floppy books. Bright colors. No, but
I do like colors. Yes.
And I think it was 2015 or 2016. I think it was 2016. There was a Han Solo miniseries, and he did the Dragon Void race. Flew the Falcon in this race with these other starships and whatnot. So yeah, plenty different kinds.
Yeah. No. So I will tell you, Scotty, you kind of alluded to it. I thought the best response that I saw was, since Tech ended up racing. That's good, Ash. Yeah, you can keep following. It's not going to be Connect 4, but we want your hot take because I know you probably have hot takes. Somebody said Anakin was the only human who could do it, and so if they had Tech do it, it would. I mean, we could have retconned that and said, well, it's because he's got the whatever, he's a clone or whatever. Yeah. But I'm good with that. But I do think, because I will admit it, I didn't love the episode. It was 25 minutes to get to the last line of the episode to just say, remember, you can't trust Sid. But it wasn't terrible. But if it was pod racing, I think we all would have been like, did you see the pod racing?
Oh my God. It was the sound design that messed me up because they were walking up towards that little edge to look over. It's like, I'm like, no,
Yeah.
they're doing it, and then they didn't do it. That's okay.
We needed a Sebulba.
The best, the best.
But we are going to get to the hot takes. If you want to dial in with your hot take, please definitely do it. We have a ton of people hanging out with us in the chat. We got Connor, we got Jeff, we got Ash, we got Dale, we got TW McKay, we've got Eric.
Nice.
We got a ton of people. Sorry if I missed you. We got Benny Relp. We got, Scotty J. Rose in the chat. Oh, that's nice. But we are going to get to those hot takes. But we would be remiss and frankly irresponsible if we didn't talk for just a moment about the Mandalorian trailer, which dropped on Monday. I went into it fully expecting nothing new. I thought it was going to, because we've seen those situations where those of us who nerd out and follow everything that happens online, we've seen the trailer and then they just sort of play a variation of that. This was completely new, top to bottom, and I gotta say I enjoyed watching it with Bombadcast on Monday Live. That was a lot of fun watching it with you guys. But Chris, let me start with you. What is sort of the, we don't need to analyze the trailer. That's been done a million times very well by much more intelligent people than me. But what is the thing that stuck out to you? What was that feeling you got? What was the thing that just like grabbed you about this trailer that you may not have felt maybe before we started getting it?
Carl Weathers. I'm just happy to see Carl Weathers back this season. So yeah, but seeing that it seems like Din is embracing his role and wanting to and questioning what it is to be a Mandalorian and what that means for the other Mandalorians who are scattered across the galaxy. So yeah, I think like he's going to be this great uniter. He may not so much turn his back, but have a different point of view going forward with that religion that he's in, the Child of the Watch, or Children of the Watch. So I'm excited to see that for him and see where it goes, and then of course seeing how Grogu is going to become this force for evil that we know he's bound for.
Okay, Chris. I've let this go too long because there's your hot take. Hot take number one. But I believe that Grogu becomes the Mandalorian. So
yeah, that would make sense.
So here we go. Maybe when the show starts, maybe we'll put a little bit of wager on. You and I happen to live close enough to each other, so we could put some sort of wager on and do something there. But Scotty, other than your classic Scottiness reaction, what struck you on this trailer?
So the one part that did like 100%, if you saw it, my reaction. I went Coruscant.
Oh yeah,
because I love Andor. This may be a hot take, but they showed us out of Coruscant that I really didn't care for, the kind of industrial like bleakness of it. But to see like vibrant nighttime Coruscant in that one shot, I'm like, we're not. I don't think we're doing a planet and episode thing this season.
Yeah,
I think we're gonna see some interweaving. I think we're gonna see some different movements or episodes that are more centric on different characters. I can't tell you that for now. I don't know. But that was exciting. The second exciting thing was, of course, the Jedi Temple shot, which is not going to be everyone's like, it's going to be a 5-second scene. Why are you even hyping it up? I'm like, I don't know. They don't show that in a trailer and have it be a 5-second scene. They just don't. You don't do that. And if it's a Dave episode or if it's whoever's episode, I mean, this is a big moment because we got to know where Grogu. We don't have to know, but it's nice to know where he comes from or what his lore is, who saved him. Oh, I'm pumped. I don't know.
Now, are we sure you talking about that one like city that at night, that city shot?
Yes.
Are we sure that that's Coruscant?
Okay. I'm convinced. Okay. I don't think they would do Hosnian Prime just yet because it's only been 5 years.
Or Chandrilla. Because I think Chandrilla was a seat of the Republic for a minute,
true.
Right?
I'll tell you why I think it's Coruscant. I think it's Coruscant because of the vehicle that they showed him in. They showed Dr. What's his name? Or
Pershing.
Dr. Pershing.
Yes.
It felt very much like the vehicle that we saw Palpatine in and Phantom Menace. So I don't know. I mean, either way, it's cool to see that kind of a thing. But yeah. I mean, I will say, it's funny. I spoke to my dad, who again we reference a lot as the guy who's kind of got that sort of normie approach, right? He didn't know that there was going to be a trailer. He was just watching the game because I think he had.
That's so
He
sweet.
probably had money on it or something, and then, but he said he said that he texted me. He's like, I literally got goosebumps hearing Din Djarin's voice, and but that means it's working, right? This is Star Wars. Anybody who complains about the Disney era of Star Wars, anybody who's got an issue with anything that's going on, The Mandalorian and anything that's connected to it, and you can say Bad Batch isn't getting the eyeballs, and it's probably not because it's animated. You could talk about Andor and Kenobi, but Mandalorian has pulled in the core base, and it's
been 3 years, dude.
Yeah,
like people don't talk about that. Like people haven't watched Book of Boba Fett. I know a coworker of mine that's like, it's been 3 years since Mando. You excited? I'm like, it's actually been 1 year, but yes, I'm excited. Hey, some people just don't know. So
I'll ask you guys one last question, because if we think about a lot of the people that, again, in that sort of more normie side of the world, the people who got bored of Book of Boba Fett, didn't watch Book of Boba Fett, didn't know about Book of Boba Fett, but are Mandalorian fans, missed two of the most important pieces of this season going into this season. Do you think that's going to be a real issue, or do you think most people have watched both?
I think there's going to be a recap, obviously, right before, like they did with Kenobi, like a solid recap, not like a this is what you missed out on, but like a you see Luke, you see Ahsoka with Luke, you see. I think it's going to be like, I think people are going to watch this recap and go, what is this from? You know what I mean? And then not realize they should have watched Book of Boba as well. That's what I mean. So I don't know. That's a really good question, because I'll talk about this later in my hot takes, but Star Wars is now to the point where fans are held accountable for digesting a lot of the subliminal material. That's just me. I'll get to that later.
I think that's a great comment. What about you, Chris? What do you think?
Having technical issues. Give me a sec.
No problem. Yeah, we're all good here.
We're all good.
Disruption can mean only one thing: invasion.
We don't have an invasion, I don't think. All right, I'm just gonna mute him for just one moment. But are you back? Okay, see, I don't want to mute him, because then if he says something he's trying to figure it out, we'll be okay. He won't know. But so Scotty, what was your favorite scene in the or what was your favorite little clip?
I liked watching Grogu force push that creature on Mandalore. That's gotta be Mandalore, by the way, because I sat there and analyzed, and I'm sure I know Pete watched a little bit of it, but we on the Bombadcast stream we broke down like every little aspect of, hey, we saw this shot before, we saw that this was from that, and what the geographical area looked like when certain scenes happened in the trailer. So I think Grogu force pushing stuff. That was awesome. I like seeing that he is going to be using his powers after he calmed the Rancor down, after he lifted the Mudhorn. Like, he's doing things that are very Force usery, and he even choked Gina Carano that one time. That was cool.
Yeah, but he lived the dream that what many of us have. Oh my goodness! Well,
we can hear you. We can hear you, Chris. By the way, I don't know if you're worried about us. You can hear us.
No. Yeah, I just had to switch Bluetooth devices.
There we go.
I get that.
Okay.
All right. Well, you know what? I think. Oh, that's really funny.
Andy. Everything breaks.
It's not my fault. It's not my fault. And speaking of everything, there's something cursed about tonight. We got some. My mouse just disconnected. So hang on a second. Holy cow!
Well, I can do something real quick if you don't mind.
Yeah, please.
One thing I think is very important to take away from that trailer is that with most Mando stuff, they usually hold back a lot of the things we get, a lot of the big reveals, obviously. Yeah. And I'm not gonna lie. I mean, this one seemed like they're like, okay, we're doing this. And my favorite thing about Mando is the fact that they hide so much from us, because you watch this and you go, well, if they're showing us this, what are we going to get when we're sitting down, that morning or that evening to watch the episode? And God, I'm
then there's the fact that we didn't get anything for Bo-Katan in this in this trailer.
Not this one. Not in this one.
There's that. I still hope that like seeing, oh man, what's that dude's name again? Nick interviewed him.
Oh,
Paul.
Paul.
Oh, Paul Sun Yung
Yeah,
Lee. Yep.
Yeah, Paul
Carson
Sung Lee.
Teva. Mhm.
I do hope that this is kind of like a backdoor pilot, and maybe they're switching things around, so it's not a Cara Dune show for
Yeah.
Rangers of the New Republic, but maybe it could be led by him. I think that
Yeah.
would be cool.
And you know what else too? Something else to bring up as well. We know Christopher Lloyd has been casting at Deadline, Hollywood
Yeah.
Reporter,
Yep.
all of them, right? And I was, predicting who he could play, and I thought it would be so interesting because I think Nick may have brought this up too, to have him play like the Jedi that saves Grogu. Like you see him just for a moment, you're like, oh my god, that's Christopher Lloyd, and he's like having a very sweet moment with Grogu, or Christopher Lloyd's some crazy Mandalorian, or who's the guy from Heir to the Empire, Chris?
Oh,
Saboth?
Saboth. Yeah.
Saboth?
Yeah,
Which one? Joru's or
Joru's,
Joru?
Jaru.
yeah. God, that'd be cool, wouldn't it?
Yes. Well, hey, I think we are probably ready to get to some of these hot takes. So let's take a real short break. And when we come back, we are going to get to not only the hot takes of those of you watching, but we'll get to Scotty and Chris's hot takes, my hot takes, and some from the internet. So we'll be back in just a minute. And we are back. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Tonight we build this as listening to, talking about your hot take. So if you have a hot take, please join us in the chat. I'm going to put the link. Tell us it in the chat, or if you like, I just put in. You can join us on screen. If you don't want to turn your camera on, you don't have to. We can just take your voice. We'd be happy to hear it. But yeah, we probably got about 75 hot takes. Some were just plain ridiculous. Some were a little extreme, and most of them though were very interesting. And just just kind of define hot take for a second. A hot take is not something that you hate about Star Wars. It's, generally speaking, I think hot take is best defined as an idea that you believe in, but a lot of people might not. It may be considered controversial. And so I guess our best bet might be to, I'm just going to throw up the first one that I see here actually from the chat. We'll start with this one. This is from Eric. Eric Elliott says, Han and Leia. So I was saying Star Wars for 45 freaking years. I still say Leia. Han and Leia. So it's Leia. It's the song by
It's Han and Leia.
Han and Leia. They have a romance in the Empire. It's just okay. Mostly because Han is a creep who doesn't understand consent. Okay. That's a strong hot take. Although it's not, I would say, I'll just start it off and you guys can jump in. I think by today's standards, this is one of those situations, because now when I watch it, being aware of this sort of the world that we live in now, he does kind of push himself a little on her in the Falcon, but
I agree.
So by today's standards, it's absolutely creepy. By 1980s romance films, it was completely normal, I think.
Absolutely.
Like Romance in the Stone is nothing but that. If you've ever seen Romance in the Stone, it's a lot of that. Like they're all worried and I fell on you. But like that's honestly it's not a bad take. I do think it's like we've exaggerated how much they love each other.
Yeah.
Because we know how he treated Kira, right? We know Han is a very vulnerable person, and I think a lot of us can empathize with Han having to put up a wall and Leia's the only one that can take it down, kind of thing. So that is I don't disagree with it, but I also do think, yeah, if you put it in the context of what it was and when it happened, and the writing, it's I understand. I understand that feeling.
Any comment on that, Chris?
There's a decade, age gap between them, which it could seem a little weird, by nowadays standards. Like back then, I think it was a little bit more acceptable. It's not like she was like 15 and he was 30 or something like that.
No.
But yeah, I would agree to an extent, and and his advances or whatnot. Welcome to the 80s. That's just how.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a very different world for sure.
Yeah.
So let's see. You know what? Let's take a caller who has a hot take. We will bring in. Let's see.
Legendary.
Here we go. We'll start with this one.
Hello.
Oh, that's me.
Nice.
Andy, it's you.
Andy.
How are you, my friend?
What's up, y'all?
Good to see you. Good to have join us. So what's your hot take, man?
So, the take that probably gets me yelled at the most on Twitter, I don't think it's particularly hot, but it's that in A New Hope, when Han does the "What do you think, a princess and a guy like me?" and Luke very jealously goes, "I don't think that at all."
Right.
Luke is not jealous of Han with Leia. He's jealous of Leia with Han.
Ooh. Wow. That is interesting.
That's my hot take.
I never take the time to really think about that exchange of dialogue. I always laughed at it, but that is an honest and very well thought out opinion, and I mean that. Like, that's never considered that.
Same with the smooch in Echo Base.
Mm-hmm.
Luke doing the whistle isn't rubbing in Han's face that Leia kissed him. Luke is rubbing it in Han's face that Han didn't kiss him.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
It gets rid of the
Interesting.
uncomfortable Jamie Cersei of it all.
Yeah.
And it I think it still plays with the scene, because obviously Lucas didn't know that Luke and Leia were sisters. That came later.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
So it just kind of washes that uncomfortableness away from the Luke Leia retcon, and I think the scenes still work. But
That's
people get real mad at me anytime I mention it
on Twitter.
Yeah,
we haven't had Luke be with a woman in all of Star Wars besides Mara Jade in the EU. But like, that is
there was that. Are we allowed to cuss?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, there was that computer Jedi AI that Luke fucked in his X-wing. There's a lot of weird Luke sex stuff.
Wait a second, Chris, is that some of that comic book stuff that I'm not reading?
I don't know, man, because I don't pay attention to like 80% of the EU.
Shadows of Mindor.
Eric Elliott, I'm right there with you in the I see you, right there with you. But yeah,
really.
Yeah.
I'm not aware of this.
And like, I think Mara Jade is an excellent character.
Right.
I think she's more interesting later than when she first appears, but that's a different hot take. I don't think Timothy Zahn knew how to write women for a really long time. But that also gets me yelled at on Twitter. But I think in canon, Luke hasn't had a legitimate romance because I think they just don't want to touch it.
Right.
But I
true.
think
Yeah.
Gay readings of Luke are really long. They're really well established as part of fandom, and I think they hold up. Also, if you see Luke as bi with Mara Jade, I think that works. I don't think I don't think Luke is topping there. I'll say
No.
that. I don't know
I
how
love-
spicy I can get here, but
No, I love it though, because there's a certain analysis that people put thought into that need to be brought out to light like this. Because I'm gonna be real with you, Andy. I had never considered the first thing you brought up, and then the second thing you brought up in terms of like really what is Luke's sexuality and where does he go? Because I mean, you don't really see a true romance or connective tissue throughout the full entire. I don't know, now currently known canon.
I think romance is key to Star Wars. I think it's intrinsic to Star Wars' DNA, and so I think people are always going to ship characters together, and that's fun. And
Yep.
it's but yeah, I think Han and Luke had a crush, and they cuddled in that tauntaun. Who knows what happens?
That is true. They did get in the tauntaun together. That's interesting.
It was
What happens on Hoth stays on Hoth. So
Andy came with a hot take and a hot take.
It was pretty hot, Andy. I got to admit that.
thank you. Okay.
Andy,
Also, real quick before you boot me, a lot of people
it's
say
the censors.
Luke,
it's not me, man.
Luke,
I can't.
Luke can't be gay. He and Mara Jade. I dated a ton of women. I dated a ton of straight women.
Mm-hmm.
They had no clue. I had no clue. Sometimes it takes a while to figure your stuff out. So to everyone that says Luke can't be gay, he had a girlfriend. A lot of gay guys have girlfriends.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, didn't somebody ask Mark Hamill at one point if Luke was gay? He's like, if you think he is, he is. And I think that's one of the cool things about the fact that it is ambiguous. And I think that's probably why it works for so many different people, because anybody can identify with Luke. And it's probably better that we don't get to know Luke's romantic background, because then it can still be whatever you want it to be, right?
If they never say it, I'm happy with it. Like,
right.
And if they do come out and say something, if they recanonize Mara Jade tomorrow and Luke has a girlfriend, that takes nothing away from my reading of Luke and what Luke means to me. So, and I don't think Lucasfilm coming out and saying anything definitive would make gay readings of Luke any less valid.
Sure, right? I
important.
agree.
For sure.
But yeah, that's my hot take. Thank you so much for bringing me on.
Oh,
Y'all
dude,
are rad. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for hanging out with us. We'll talk to you soon. See ya.
Yep.
See, that's why I love the call-ins show,
Ew.
because you don't know. Like, first of all, that was not anywhere on any of the hot takes had, and that was just it's a hot. And that's the cool thing. Let's be real here. Hot takes, like I said, they're not things you hate about Star Wars. They're not things you're for an argument on. They're just things that you are pulling out, and it causes conversation and people to look at things a little bit differently. So that was really great. We have another caller in the back that we'll get to in 1 second. I want to see, Scotty. You had sort of threatened me with having some hot takes on your own. So let me get your first hot take, Chris. We're gonna take yours in a little bit as well, but let's just take one from Scotty before we bring in our next caller.
I wrote 5 down. 6 actually. I'm gonna go with the one that I think most people struggle with the most, and much like Andy brought in, they brought in the fact that it's things that people don't really consider. They don't maybe read too much into it, but I genuinely believe, and I'm not joking when I say this. Y'all know I'm a biology teacher. It's what I do professionally. It's something I have a deep fascination with. I literally bought a book on genetics at a bookstore today that I've just been really dying to read. So I'm through and through believe midi-chlorians makes way more sense than anyone gives it credit for. Through and through. I think midi-chlorians got a bad rap because people thought they wanted to, make spirituality, the Force being this thing, way more science, taking the science fiction out of it. But
yes,
I'm sorry, putting science fiction into
taking the mysticism out of it.
Yes, but the thing is, we all, and I'm eager to see what the chat says. No one really considers that everything in our body is out of our control. I mean, that's why cancer develops, right? I mean, literally, right now on my hand, there's trillions of cells. There's bacteria on my hand that I haven't washed off yet either. There's just within all of us, there are so many microorganisms that do micro functions that allow you to fully live. And to have something, and Qui-Gon said it best, be mindful of the living force. If you truly believe that you are part of a bigger system, then it would make sense that these systems, these microsystems within you, are able to channel something that maybe you're not tuned to, right?
Yeah.
There's a biological and evolutionary thing that I think is just deeply fascinating, because I do think when George did that, it obviously set up so much in Star Wars. And you even watch Clone Wars, and they have the wellspring of the Force. Like that is where all life feeds, right? The cosmic and the living force come together in that area. And I mean, it has a lot to do with consciousness, has a lot to do with how we're aware of things. And I mean, I think humans have their own aspect of the force. We all have intuition. You all know when there's something going on, even if you're not there and you feel it in your gut. I mean, that is your cells on a microscopic level saying, "Hey, hold on, we're attuned to something that you are not fully aware of yet." But yeah, I genuinely believe midichlorians have done a lot. And if you read the Plagueis novel, I mean, James Lucinio really dives into what midichlorians can do. And I think if you haven't read that novel, listen to the audiobook. It is truly one of the best Star Wars reads, even though it's not canon. But I think half the stuff in there about midichlorians could be canon. But anyway, what do y'all feel about that? Do y'all like that?
Chris, where do you come down on it?
Yeah, all right. So back a few years back, there was someone, a Star Wars YouTuber, but he went by Urban Acolyte, my friend Prince.
Okay.
And he had a video on this, and so I'm like, what you're saying to me, I don't see it as a hot take. I just see that as not old news, but I'm like, yeah, and I think that's something other people that should just be the thing. Yeah, the midichlorians are translators for the Force.
Yeah,
that's
it.
how I've always looked at it, and like that was one thing that Prince always talked about when he tried to explain midichlorians to people who just used it as a target to shit on the prequels and shit on George Lucas's writing.
That's what I'm.
And they didn't even realize that George was. I'm sorry, like people can say what the fuck you want. George, sorry for cussing. George was on another. Sorry, hating on George. He was on another level, and people just were not clicking with whatever he was talking about. So that's why I also think like his sequel trilogy is probably on something that people just weren't ready for. But with the midichlorians, yes, I know I'm with you all the way on that, and I think that they are a translator for the Force, and an easier way for the Jedi to whatever technology they learn to do the count on that, just an easier way to be like, oh, this person is strong with the Force, but it doesn't take away from the mysticism of the Force at all. That is history. So
I agree. And something else I want to add to that too is when you really reflect on things, especially in the Phantom Menace, the whole movie is about symbiosis. I mean, the whole thing, Naboo. I mean, you've got man versus machine. That's one huge theme of the Phantom Menace. The other theme is symbiotic relationships. If Naboo do not get along with Vulcans, they both fail.
Right.
And then you've got the Miracle Boy, who is born of midichlorians, and that's why his count's so high. He is a child of the Force. He is the Force acting in balance of something else. It could be Plagueis, it could be whatever. So and not everything has to be a Jedi with midichlorians. They make that very clear in Star Wars. So I don't know. I have a deep it's the one of the few things in Star Wars where I'm like, I need more on that, and I'm happy I can wait for it. I can wait for it. Pete, how do you feel? Because you're from a different era to me of like, I'm sure when they dropped that in TPM, you're like,
yeah, 100%. I appreciate the perspective that both of you brought to it, and it honestly did make me think about it a little bit differently. But I feel like scienceifying, which is a word that a lot of people use that have never heard before, but creating science out of the mysticism to me really felt out of place. And to me, the Force was this big spiritual thing. Now, interesting that you positioned it as sort of a scientific explanation for mysticism in a way that I can get behind, because it is hard for a lot of people, myself included, to kind of just accept whatever the spiritual line is of whatever you're talking about, just accepting it in the scientific world. But it still felt to me like, because it was never mentioned again. I don't know. Has it ever been, other than James Lucino's book?
It was in the in Mandalorian chapter 12. It was mentioned when he said his M count or something. He's something along
Okay.
like
Right,
they
you're right,
couldn't
you're
get
right.
an M count. They didn't even say it straight up because
Right.
that's how nervous they were to bring it back. So
Right.
and I guess it's Dave and John's writing, and I hope we get more of it, but I'm not holding my
Yes.
breath. That's what I'm saying. Like we don't know, and I think if there was an honest, thorough explanation of it, Clone Wars did pretty well with it. But if there was maybe Ahsoka, I mean, Ahsoka's going to get weird, and we
Yep.
know that for a fact. So
Yep.
yeah.
Interesting. Cool.
Thanks,
Well,
Pete.
we are going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll take your hot takes. We have somebody waiting to join us on the phone, so we will grab them in just a minute. But we'll be back in just a minute with Force Connect with more of your hot takes. And we are back. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us tonight. We are hitting on all of your Star Wars hot takes. I say all. There's no way we're getting to all of them. But we've been seeing a bunch of really good ones, interesting ones coming up in the chat. We have, what do we see here? There's Rose Tico is one of the greatest characters of the saga. Call in, Eric. We want to hear that one. Let's see. TW McKay says, lukewarm take. I think the concept of romantic relationship within the context of the Jedi Order is not in. That's an interesting opportunity, especially about what's happening in High Republic, which I still haven't read anything of. And many more in the chat there. So we have a caller who's going to join us in just a second with their hot take. So why don't we bring him in? I'll do that right now.
Goodness gracious me.
Anka, Pachuha Pinky.
We are joined by Connor. Connor, I did not honestly choose the one-eyed welcoming droid to as yours on purpose, but it is good to see you, Connor. How are things, my friend? You don't have audio. We have your face. We have your smile.
We can't hear
don't
your
have audio.
microphone, brother.
Before we couldn't get his
I was
video.
muted. That's why.
There we are. Aha!
Yeah.
It is. Yeah, that's all right.
Sometimes just turning them off and on again does work.
Right. Have you tried unplugging it and plugging it back in? Yes.
But no, I'm good. I'm
good. Good. What's your hot take?
Okay, so this might ruffle some feathers.
Oh,
Truthfully, I'm not even kidding.
right.
How do I start it? Luke, I don't find Luke Skywalker to be that interesting of a Jedi, and to me at least, and I think he's kind of overrated by the fandom.
Dude, saying Luke Skywalker is overrated by the fandom is a hot take. You got to explain that one. I want to hear this.
So
Go
here's
for it.
here's the thing. Here's my take on that.
Yeah.
Growing up as a kid, Luke Skywalker was never like my central hero figure that I'm sure most
Same.
of you guys had him as in your childhoods. Like he was that figure that you guys looked up to. For me, he was never that. He might have been at one point, but I don't really remember. I have a terrible memory. I don't remember much of my childhood. Fun.
That's a different show, Connor. That's a different show.
But I just never got super captivated by him.
Yeah.
And still even, I don't really care much for him. The only piece of content that I actually find to be like really interesting with Luke Skywalker as a character is the Battlefront 2 story segment where you play as him on Pilio and you encounter Del Meeko. That is the perfect summary of who Luke Skywalker is as a Jedi and as a character. You don't need anything else. Everything else, I think, is pretty like Luke. Like here's my other thing with. I just have so many thoughts with Luke when it comes to this. Like the fandom just kind of, especially online now, seems to just kind of put him on a pedestal. When like for me at least, it kind of there's a point where some characters are put on a pedestal so high to the point that it's like off-putting to me.
Yeah.
And like, how do I
think
put
of the post Force Awakens talk about Luke Skywalker? Like they expected this fool to jump in there like he was born on Krypton and just just save the day, on Starkiller Base and whatnot. That's why I'm so glad he was the way he was in The Last Jedi.
Same here. But like, I was not moved by him in Last Jedi like many people were. Like I remember seeing a bunch of people online that were, I never really cared for Luke Skywalker that much. And then I watched The Last Jedi and my position completely flipped. And I'm like, that's really cool. I genuinely love that.
Yeah.
I kind of wish it was the same for me, but whatever. It's not. The best way I can describe Luke Skywalker as a Jedi, for me at least, is that he is a not perfect. He is a phenomenal template for what a Jedi should be.
Qui-Gon.
But that's it. Like I can name like 5 other Jedi far more interesting than him. Ezra Bridger, Cal Kestis, Qui-Gon Jinn, Keith Trennis, Avar Kriss. The last 2, Scotty and Pete, haven't even heard of.
Yeah. I don't know if they count.
They count. They count. And just like,
is High Republic count? I'm not sure. Is it?
Can't stand him.
Sorry.
I know it's canon.
oh God.
We lost Chris. Chris.
But,
I'm kidding, of course.
Like, I don't know. I just can't get into him. And it's weird because like I read the 2015 comic, the Star Wars comic, which highly recommend for everybody.
Yeah.
The original trilogy character I got most into through that comic run was Princess Leia.
Yeah.
Like I used to I was never like big on her in the movies, but like that comic run completely flipped my paradigm of her. Just phenomenal. Like there are 2 arcs in particular, and Chris, you will know them. Rebel Jail and Scourgeon of Shu-Turin.
Yep.
Just
Yep.
phenomenal.
Can I comment on one of the thoughts you had real quick, just because I think it's important to share. I have found a more fascination with Luke, like I saw in the chat, post Return of the Jedi. Like I really do like Mando's stuff. I like seeing him go through more Jedi things. I think I know why you don't like him. It's because in none of the things we've seen him in, except for his very basic training in A New Hope, and of course,
Thanks, Jared. Love you.
His torment and I guess turmoil on an Empire, and then what we see in Return of the Jedi, a little bit of Return of the Jedi, we don't really see like true full-on Jedi Luke, except for Pilio and Book of Boba Fett and Mando season 2. So I think it's very fair for you to have those feelings.
Oh, and here's the other
'cause
thing.
he's-
Like, I'm not discounting Luke's arc. Luke has a really solid arc throughout from A New Hope to Rise.
Yeah.
It's not a bad arc at all. It's a great arc. I just
It's not for you. It's not
Yeah,
for
it's
you.
not for
I
me.
get that.
Well, that's
That is
cool,
a hot
though.
take. That is a hot take.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Connor. We're gonna bring in another one. That was a great. Honestly, that was an unexpectedly smoky take. I really appreciated that one. So, but
I agree with you, Connor.
thank you, my friend.
Thank
We'll
you,
definitely
Chris.
talk to you again soon. See ya.
See ya.
I did not see a Luke doesn't matter, or I don't like Luke Skywalker hot take coming in, but that's good. I mean, it's interesting. It is, and you know what though, it is probably related to generation, right? I mean, my son, I've said this a billion times, his Luke, Han, and Leia are Fives, Rex, and Cody. Like that's his guys, and so he might find
That's
Luke
it.
really boring. So
That's true.
that's totally a fair take. 100%. We have another caller waiting to come in, so let's bring him in.
Go for Papa Palpatine.
You have a collect call from.
Darth Vader.
I gotta take this. Hold on.
Hello there.
Hello.
We have a angry tasty case. Now, what I love about the call-in show, for those of you listening later or watching, Angry Tasty Cakes and I have had conversations over tweets, but I've never seen his face. This is amazing. How are you? So good to see you. How's things?
Oh, they're going.
Yeah, that's all we can ask for, I guess.
Yeah.
Right? So what's your hot take?
I believe I said it in the chat earlier, but Palpatine is not a good villain.
Interesting.
And I'm so irritated by everyone like fawning over this guy. Like like kind of like believe it was Connor that was just here, right? I think that was his name.
Yep.
You know how Luke's character kind of falls flat. And to an extent, I agree. Although Mark Hamill is my childhood hero, so I take offense. However, I do agree that, you know, to a certain extent, Luke falls flat. But the same can be said for Palpatine.
Yep.
He remains the same. I don't know if I want to count Phantom Menace or Attack of the Clones as like Palpatine. You know what I mean? But I will say that for 7 out of those 9 movies, he stays the same.
Yeah,
Like-
he's very like, oh, I'm the big bad guy. Like I
Yeah.
get that. So who would you say is a good villain then? Maul or anyone like that?
No, Bane.
Oh, so you're going Legends. You're going. Well,
I'm
not
going
really
Legends,
now.
yeah.
Not really
And I
Legends
hate
now.
to say it. I hate to say Legends, but in terms of the actual canon, I don't think there are any good ones.
Oh, interesting. So Ben
Yeah.
Solo, Kylo Ren didn't get your goat because he I
No.
understand more than Palpatine, and even Vader, the fallen of Vader. This is interesting. What is your take on a villain? What's a villain to you? Because
So I think
these are archetypal. These are Joseph Campbellian like themes here.
Thrawn.
Okay,
Thrawn
now
is a
that's
good
Yes.
villain.
fair.
Okay. Yes.
That's
Yep.
very fair. Okay, why is that one? Because I like Bane. I don't know enough about, but Thrawn I know a good bit.
Yeah, so I mean, Thrawn for me, I think, is like the quintessential villain type, right? You have
Okay.
a man, a chiss, whatever you want to call him. You know, he's cold, he's calculating, he is very by the book, but he knows how to play emotions. And I can't say that with Palpatine because he's very one note, but here you have Thrawn who's like, I appreciate the arts. I will take a Twi'lek Calicori as a trophy because I appreciate what that is.
Yep.
You know, and then I'll use that to bend that Twi'lek family to do what I want. Like,
That's interesting. Yeah.
you know, like he's very when the gloves come off, the gloves come off.
Yeah, Palpatine is very mustache twirly, one-dimensional as a villain. I would agree with that actually quite a bit. I think he's an over the top. I mean, literally down to he's like with a dark cloak and lightning fingers. He's like I think that's fair. That's a great.
May I?
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Chris. I wasn't even looking at the screen. I can imagine you were chomping at the bit, like, just shut up for a second, Pete. I got
no. I just want to get a chance to get in and say what I got to say. Then I'll slither back this way. Palpatine has what he wants.
Ooh.
So he doesn't have to chase after anyone and do any kind of evil deeds. And he's got what he wants. And that's why you'll see better villains with his minions and people, because they're going out and doing, you know, more dirty deeds for themselves or in the name of the Emperor. But the way that he manipulates people, the way that he manipulates, you know, Anakin or Vader, in the books, in the comics, he's a bastard. He's a bastard through and through.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, if I've already got everything I want, I don't need to.
Yeah, why do I have to try, right?
Why?
Yeah.
But I do disagree with that, because for me, Palpatine has everything he wants.
Right.
Except he doesn't have control of the galaxy. He can't control Vader half the time. He's still going out of his way to try and find Luke. And if Vader can't fulfill that role, then he'll go after Luke. And if Luke doesn't do it, then Leia will.
That's a
Like,
very movies only kind of view. You
Right.
gotta read the books. You gotta read the comics, because
Right.
there's so much more. And that's why I call him a bastard, because every time Vader's sword is on his own, or he tries to go on his own, it's by manipulation of what Palpatine is doing, because he is constantly testing him and sharpening him, and by beating him down verbally, or by beating him down by putting an Imperial officer in charge of him. And I'm not even talking about Tarkin. This has happened a few times.
Yeah.
There's so much, and that's why I look at it in a different way. I don't discount what you're saying. It's just there's so much more to him.
Yeah, I think for me, when it came to Palpatine, I think the most riveting part of his character was when he was like explaining how he slaughtered his family on that ship.
Oh, and so
And I was like,
Plagueis. Yeah,
yeah,
Plagueis.
and I was like,
yeah.
that's Palpatine. That is a true bastard, as you said. You know, like he slammed his father up against the wall countless times to basically where he was Taco Bell meat. You know, I was like, that's okay. I can see that. But then, you know, when you get into the canon of it, the main movies and stuff like that, he just falls so flat.
Interesting. That is fair.
Yeah.
Look, this is your hot take. This is how you feel. We're not going to jeopardize or chastise you for feeling that way, because that is a damn hot take. But I also feel like you are valid in some of your thoughts, because that mustache twirly thing, I get that's something that's like, well, that's not very complex. And Thrawn is a little bit more complex, a little more.
Oh, Pete and I will go back and forth on Twitter in about half an hour. I can almost guarantee it.
I'm certain we're coming there. But hey, man, thank you so much for joining us. This was great. It's good to finally meet you in person, if you will.
Yeah, of course.
And we will we'll definitely keep talking online. Thanks for joining us, man.
Absolutely, thank you.
Tasty cake.
All right. So in the last segment, we got Luke is not for me, and Palpatine is not for me. I think we're just hitting our stride here on hot takes. So hey, listen, we're gonna take a very short break, and when we come back, we have 2 callers lined up, and we're gonna keep rolling with these damn it with the hot cakes. You know what? I think it's because I didn't really eat dinner before I came in. But we're gonna take a real short break, and when we come back, we have Eric Elliott coming in and Jared, the Dark Jedi, with their hot takes.
Oh no. Oh.
All right, we are back. We have had some of the hottest takes, some of the most unexpected hot takes of in Star Wars that I was not expecting, but I'm enjoying the hell out of this evening. Thank you all for hanging out with us. Scotty, thanks for being our special guest tonight, and Chris, thanks for being far enough away from me that you can't throw stuff at me when I make comments like I often do about, because I have a hot take that came out of that last one about I don't think you should have to read the comics to know what's happening in Star Wars, but we'll get to that one in a second because we have somebody who's had some great hot takes hanging out with us. Oh, and Chris leaves again. Oh, Chris, I'm sorry. We are going to bring in our next caller. Eric has had a whole bunch of hot takes in the chat, so let's bring him in now.
Oh, thank the force! Come here, you little womp rat!
Eric, welcome to Force Connect. How you doing, my friend?
I'm nervous. I'm geeking out. I've been watching you guys for a bit. Like, I was introduced to two of you through the Blue Bantha Milk AI reads.
Oh, yes.
And Chris, I love your shouting Finn saying Ray. Like, that filled me with so much spirit, and like I love that series.
Nice.
I watched Bombad Cast. I watched ATG. Yeah, watch some of your friends. Like, occasionally watch That Gay Jedi.
Oh man,
yeah,
awesome.
I love all y'all.
Thanks, dude.
And I've been Star Wars fan longer than I can remember. And I do have a few hot takes that I did mention.
Yeah, you had a bunch in the chat. Which one do you want to talk about?
Okay. The one I want to talk about that I studied. I took notes, a lot of notes on this, because I was just like, you know what, I'm bored. Let me think of how many racialized stereotypes there are using metaphors as aliens in the Star Wars franchise. Now, I know a lot of people like single out Phantom Menace, but I'm like, Phantom Menace is not the only one that is doing this. Because you got to think to yourself that we all love George, but we have to keep in mind that George is a white man that grew up in the 50s. So having the context of using stereotypes, obviously. I mean, you still see these kind of stereotypes in more modern metaphorical fiction, but I'll digress. Like, in practically every movie, I was able to pick out something, even in the new movies. Like, for instance, with New Hope, we have a set of characters called Sand People.
Yeah.
And I started looking up some of the ideas of the creation about it, and it was like definitely taken from our Bedouins who live in North Africa. And even like cover themselves in wraps. Jawas, like, even though I like Jawas, like I think like they are supposed to be stand-ins for North African slave traders. From like the 1600s. So then that's like around 600 to 1600 when that was like a popping thing. Jabba the Hutt.
Me.
The shape of his building that he lives in is in the shape of a mosque.
Yeah.
His name is Jabba, which is an Arabic word that means God. He was initially intended to wear a fez on his head.
That's true. Actually, yeah, we've seen it.
He has a sex slave harem of like exotic dancers who wear scantily clad like metal and silk lingerie. Like these are all like, even with the original trilogy, even though I love them, and you go to the prequels, obviously a lot has been argued about with Jar Jar Binks and the Gungans. I don't want to get into that because I think in some ways it's kind of add too much flame to the fire because like I love him at best, and I
Oh,
feel
of course.
so bad for him like having to question himself as an artist and as a black man. But obviously Nemoidians. Who hasn't talked about the Orientalist of Nemoidians?
Well, Eric, I can tell you, I saw A New Hope in the theater in 1977, so that's my age, right? I was 7 years old. I was at the New York City premiere of The Phantom Menace, and I can tell you, sitting in a room it was celebrities, it was people who were in the movie and all the New York celebrities. When the Nemoidians started speaking, people were looking at each other around in the theater like, what are we seeing here? What's it? And honestly, and I no joke, I honestly thought that it was almost some sort of a prank, like some sort of a joke. Like, what are we seeing here? Because it was so transparent. But so you're right. I think that, I saw somebody tweet the other day, and it's interesting to watch the cycle of fandom as different ages start to come in. And you even see like some of the things that are put in, like some of the did you knows for people. It's like, no, well, that seems so obvious to me, but there's this new generation of fans coming in, and people were like, I've noticed that the Empire is only white British guys. And it's true. And in a way, if you look at the flip side of what you're saying, because I think you're right. I think that there's no denying the racial stereotypes and the cultural stereotypes that are exploited in some ways in Star Wars. Again, very similar in a way to the first hot take we had about the Han and Leia relationship, right? It's different time, doesn't make it right, doesn't make it better, but it's certainly what was done. So it's interesting to see where it is. And do you think they're getting better at it?
I think more stereotypes are the ones that are less malicious. Like I think the ones that you think of, like the same people, Jabba the Hutt, and the Nemoidians, like there's a lot of ones that feel mean-spirited, but maybe not by intention. But you got to keep in mind that George is a fan of movies that came out from the 30s. And he studied them, and he also incorporated some things that weren't the best to probably put into your franchise that's going to be selling billions of dollars with toys to children. But yeah, like an alien race, I think is stereotyping like the new era is the Aki-Aki.
Yeah.
100%. I think the Aki-Aki are people of like they're Hindu, and they even do like I forget what the actual Hindu term is, but they have like the color run powder. They have big kites. They're always dancing. They're always wearing swaris. And they have puppet shows. I'm just like, I can see it, but it doesn't feel like this is awful. It's just like, okay, I can see where the inspiration is. It could be like dissected as like very, very, very lightly problematic, I guess, but it doesn't feel like they're like really punching down, especially since more of the people working on it are more diverse. So they can tend to be like, hey, maybe that's not the best idea. Maybe we shouldn't be doing that with that kind of character. But yeah, one of the ones I think is a little more hard to ignore is like, especially if like we're like uber nerds. So we like every background character, we have to know everything about it. Like no normal person knows who the hell Sidon Athano is, but we do. He's doing the red helmet. It's a pirate. Who gives a shit about Sidon Athano? Who gives a shit about Ben watching arrows? It's like, oh, he's a big fat face dude, but we love him. When we saw his alien race show up in the last season of Clone Wars, like, oh look, it's the Tongs. So like, I'm fully aware that like we focus a little too much of our time, but we're passionate.
Yep, for sure.
Are you familiar with the aliens called Nucoisian?
I don't think so.
-COSIAN. You see this creature that represents for this alien race a little more prominently in the behind the scenes for Force Awakens, but he does show up briefly. He shows up on Jakku well before Ray leaves and she's like getting one quarter push and that kind of thing. He just like this weird hunched over man with like crates with weird creatures. He has yellow skin, like wispy white beard, and like he can't open his eyes. I'm just like, yo,
this guy right here. I'll put up my phone.
I don't know who wrote this.
Oh, that guy. Okay, yeah.
But I'm like, this is clearly supposed to be like what you call it? A gremlin style, like old ass Asian man.
Yeah.
And I found out he is like his alien race is actually related to I forget his name. He was the one that shows up in like the Amber in Kenobi. We found out he died.
Yeah. The one Jedi Master.
Terrace Sanube.
Terrace Sanube. Yeah. Terrace Sanube.
Interesting. Well, this is a very hot take. I mean, no, I'm sorry. It's not a hot take. It's an honest take because a lot of what we do when we digest media is, of course, we have to make parallels to real life. And what you did was you took a parallel that is often swept under the rug. And I'm glad you brought it up tonight because some people watching live may not have considered the implications of categorizing people and putting them in their culture in terms of aliens and, all this deep anthropology stuff. I mean, it's unfortunately deeply seated in people being raised by people that may have not had these experiences or these moments of reflection that allowed them to understand that, this is a racist thing. This is something that is super subtle, it's super subconscious, but deep down it is racist. And I want to add one more thing to this because this opened my eyes to something too. I feel like Book of Boba Fett, and I know we need to move on to the next guest, kind of not retcon anything, but I think it almost showed like regardless if they're Sand people or Tusken Raiders, they have their own culture, they have their own tribe, and it's very, very similar to like Aboriginal tribes, being able to like ingest, or anyone from like a desert Indian culture, this idea, Native American culture, excuse me, that they would, take peyote and have these psychedelic and spiritual experiences. That's what they put, Boba through, and it was kind of beautiful. So that's interesting. But I'm glad you came by tonight. This was great, man.
Yeah, this was so good.
Honestly, probably one of my favorite episodes of anything that's released on Disney Plus. Like,
me too.
And it's not just because of the bigger like humanization of this alien race has been racialized. It's just like really good, like fun episode. Like I am obsessed with the train droid that like hops out. It decides he's not going to die. I laugh every time I watch that. It's fantastic, and they had the deleted scene characters, like Mars Trap in the episode.
Yeah,
that was fantastic.
Yeah.
All right, but
Eric, I would love to continue this conversation at some point. So please follow us, hang out with us, keep up with us, and I would love to dig a little deeper.
Now I feel more
for
comfortable.
sure.
I will do this. I've never done this before.
Oh, you did great,
you
man.
killed it, bro.
Yeah.
You brought in the facts. You backed up your stuff. If this is your debut into doing anything content creating, consider making videos because that was very well spoken.
100%.
Very happy to be here with you.
Yeah. And Chris, there's one thing I want to say before I leave.
Uh-oh.
Bed sand.
No. Never again.
You have a wonderful night.
You too, man. Thank you so much.
Nice meeting you, man.
All right.
I gotta say, I love it when somebody's so passionate about something and can back it up. It's one thing. That's one thing. I find there's so many people out there that are like, "Yeah, I don't like that," and then you're like, "Yeah, but why?" Like anybody who uses the word woke, the best thing you can possibly do is say, "What does that mean?" And
yes,
because they have two choices. They could either say, "I don't know," or they could say, "I'm just being a racist asshole." So those are kind of your two choices.
Beautifully said.
Speaking of people who use the word woke, we have another caller ready to come in, and I say that pure jest because I love this guy, and I have not had a chance to talk to him in quite some time. So I'm going to bring him in with one of his favorite characters.
Hello.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Hello,
Jared,
boys.
the Dark Jedi. How are you doing, my friend? I almost called you the Gray Jedi, but I saw the shield sticker, and I knew I couldn't do that to you. How's it going, man?
Play nice. I got you right there. Yeah.
You're representing. That's great. How's it going, dude? It's been too long.
I'm good. This is my third technically broadcast from Taylor's. We're all moved in.
Nice.
Working on Studio 2.0 as we speak. Until then, got the old green screen. Really interesting conversations being had already tonight. Connor with a very Connor take. One that I would love to unpack with him sometime. Getting into there's something really interesting about the trajectory of Star Wars, that as we get more and more nuanced and complicated villains, the weirder and stranger and less palatable certain very fairy tale elements are getting, such as having a character who is just the ultimate evil in Darth Sidious. And it also makes like stuff like redemption even harder to talk about. Like, how can you have like, oh yeah, Vader can be redeemed in the same conversation as looking at someone like Cyril Karn. Lots of cool stuff. And absolutely, what was the name of your last caller?
Eric.
Yep. Eric, phenomenal. I was in the chat. Conversations like that are very important. They're very nuanced. You know, lots of people who study Tolkien have been unpacking the problematic elements of Tolkien's work for a long time, and they're aplenty. And it is the mark of healthy conversation and healthy fandom to be able to have those conversations and not throw the baby out with the bathwater, but also be willing to call out something in the thing that you like.
Yep.
But yeah, that's not what I'm here to talk about, though.
That's awesome. What is your hot take? I know you got something.
He should have won a trivia.
Yes. Every single match has been rigged against me, and I.
All right, Trump.
Don't stop the count. They put El Frodo on the board, people. People are saying. If anything, I'll do Alex. But anyway, putting chemicals in the water. Anyway, I'm sorry. So. Okay, mine's kind of two-pronged. At first, I want to ask, and maybe you guys talked about it because I wasn't able to get here in time. I would love to unpack this Darth Vader is a loser thing before we get to mine, just briefly.
All right,
I would do it now, Pete.
As
I want
a
to bring it up
resident
too.
Vader fanboy, I would love to unpack this.
All right, so I am a huge Vader fan. I'm a huge Anakin fan, and I am the first to admit that when I watched the prequels, I felt like Hayden Christensen was a little flat. But I have definitely grown and changed my opinion of the entire prequel trilogy. And Vader has always been, because I was 7 when he walked on the screen the first time. When my son, I have a video of my son seeing Vader. I have to find this video again, but my son is watching. He's probably 4 years old, sitting on the floor in front of the big screen TV, and Vader walks in for the first time in A New Hope, and he stands up and he just goes, "Oh no." That was my son's response. That was all he had.
No.
But that's because it worked. He was frightening.
He's not wrong. He's very correct in that.
He is 100% right. That said, outside of comics, and I apologize in advance, Chris, but he has lost every major battle that he's been a part of, and you can thank the sequel trilogy for reinforcing that he lost to Obi-Wan Kenobi. He lost to Obi-Wan Kenobi twice. He lost to 3 times. Let's say 3 times, because he lost in the Kenobi series. Okay,
that's what I'm struggling with.
No.
What the hell do you mean by lost?
Okay.
Oh my God.
All right. On
the sequel
Mustafar,
trilogy part's the one that's really getting me.
Okay. All right. So on Mustafar, he lost.
Barely.
He lost.
He had Obi-Wan on the ropes.
He lost.
Barely.
Okay. In the Kenobi series, yes, he beat him once.
He lit him on fucking fire. Sorry.
Right, he did. It's all right. We'll put the E on this episode. We're good. And we can thank Andy for that, by the way. We're totally cool with it. We're having fun with it.
Sorry.
Obi beat him in the Kenobi series. Obi-Wan beats him by letting him strike him down and using that to let using that to let Luke and Leia get away. He loses he beats Luke, but then loses the battle in Bespin. He doesn't capture him. He doesn't finish the job. Maybe he's not a loser, but he just can't finish the job.
So hold on. So it's like a mission not accomplished thing for Vader. That's what you struggle
every
with.
time. Yep. Every time.
So it's like he gets to the battle. I would say he wins the battle, but the mission is still not accomplished, except against the younglings.
He killed a bunch of 5-year-olds, so that's a big W. You could put that one in your cap.
So to jump onto the Vader thing, and I like my versus stuff, as long as those conversations are
they're great
reasonably. Vader has a nearly spotless record as a combatant.
Okay.
He takes the L on mysterious rock planet in Kenobi.
Yes.
He loses on Mustafar.
Barely.
And
Jedi he wins though. But to the Jedi he wins because he kills his master.
Yeah, but somehow Palpatine returns.
Okay, we're gonna do the win-loss record versus like the spiritual wins here as separate baskets. I would say that he does win in The Empire Strikes Back. Yes, Luke gets away, but like the front line of the rebellion is shattered. Han Solo's just in the wind, and as we've seen in the comics, sorry Pete, Luke kind of has to rediscover himself, and by the time we see him in Return of the Jedi, he's still like off the beaten path. He's still questioning whether or not he's able to bring himself to do certain things in the name of the rebellion and his Jedihood.
Mm-hmm.
So even then, I think Vader does shake him to his core in many ways, even if he doesn't capture him, even if he doesn't bring him before the Emperor and join him and together they rule the galaxy as father and son. They don't necessarily get to do that, but Vader still, I do think, wins. It's not a full win. And like, if you look at every single one of these situations as like a zero-sum game, yes, Vader and the Empire don't get everything they want from any one of his like encounters necessarily, except for that time that he almost burned Obi-Wan Kenobi to death and then killed Obi-Wan Kenobi. Which again, sure, Luke and Leia get away, but even for Vader in that moment, I don't think he gave a damn about Leia. And he didn't know about Luke.
No,
in that moment, he's like, "Oh, I'm killing you for real this time. You're not getting it from me. You die on the Death Star."
But then you could tell he's like, "What the hell just happened? I just swung a lightsaber through this dude, and now he's good." Yeah. But yeah,
and I'm sure there was a moment of like, I don't know how he did that. I don't know what the hell just happened. But you know what? I killed him. That's all that matters to me.
Okay, so we can come to an agreement for the most part that there are goals that are different. Like Vader's goal to do whatever is one thing, but the ultimate outcome is another. So I'm not saying you're wrong, Pete, because you're valid in your opinion, but there's some things in this that I think are very important to maybe even nitpick. Chris, you haven't had a chance to speak on this. I don't know when you saw Pete's tweet how you felt about it, because we all work with Pete. We're all
I rolled my eyes when I saw it.
Okay, so wait a minute.
The people's champion.
Listen, man, I've been keeping my mouth shut through most of this thing, but all right, listen. Vader's the greatest. Shut up. The other thing is Vader is a tragic character. Tragic characters don't win all the time.
That's right.
Villains don't win all the time.
That's right.
So what he does is push, his adversaries or people around him forward and push that story forward. No, I don't see him as a loser. I see him as a tragic character who, in the end, won. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
So, with the sequel trilogy part of that, thank you for teeing that up, Chris. Yes, somehow Palpatine returns, and that somehow is the fact that he is not unlike a cockroach, nigh unkillable because he refuses to die.
He refuses to die.
Like just his whole Palpatine, that is, look on life is that he is a usurper. He steals and usurps from the people around him, from the galaxy. He is a taker. So him having this insane contingency plan so that he can never die, never whatever, it makes perfect sense to me. And had it not been for Anakin Skywalker's sacrifice during the Battle of Endor, it never would have set up the chain of events that would lead to Sidious being defeated permanently. Like
interesting.
Like the Chosen One prophecy says that he will bring balance. At no point is there, like, from the canon version we have of that prophecy, and we never had a prophecy in Legends. We just knew there was one. We never knew the text of it. But now that we know what it is within the canon, we know that all that was said was that he would bring balance. There was never a qualifier that said he will bring balance permanently. So the Sith will never return.
Well, yeah, and
the threat is permanently extinguished.
Yeah.
And you said what you're about to say, Pete.
No, but I was going to say, I think we could, I mean, a second hot take that I don't want to dive into right now, though, is that what is balance of the Force? And I don't think we've ever seen that. So, but here's what I want to do. If you're cool, Jared, if you can hang out, I want to
hang out because I didn't even get to do my hot take.
No, that's exactly it. I want your hot take. I want your hot take. We want to take a real quick break. We'll be back in 1 minute, and I want to get Jared's hot take. And if we had a caller in the back, if they can come on back, we'll get you as well. But we're gonna take a real short break, and when we come back, we will have Jared's hot take, which I cannot wait for.
I like the song a lot.
Yeah, it just keeps it. It's a nice little break. It recharges you, and it gets you through to the next segment. Amen. And this segment is I when I saw Jared in the chat, I was hopeful he was going to dial in because nobody has hot takes like Jared, and so I'm glad you pulled out my Vader's a loser one because I still feel like and that's the great thing about hot takes, and I think that's one of the cool things about everything that's come out tonight is none of these hot takes I was like, yeah, they're right, or nope, they're wrong. It was like,
exactly.
There's two sides to this, and you know what? Before I turn it over to you, Jared, I think that's one of the cool things about where Star Wars is right now. Is there is I think they're doing a phenomenal job of making us look at the middle ground, but also fully recognizing what is wrong and what is right. I mean, the days, if anybody is still saying, hey, the Empires, they might not be wrong. I don't know what you're drinking in the morning because that is.
I'd like to know where they were roughly this time of year 2 years ago.
I think you know where they were.
That was good. That was good.
But Jared,
yes,
what is the Dark Jedi's hot take?
It is about a character that I think should have been a Dark Jedi and not a full-fledged Sith Lord. Okay. The more and more material we get about Count Dooku, the more I'm convinced that having him become one of Sidious's thralls was the absolute wrong decision to take with his character. I think when looking at Dooku's arc in totality, and looking at the stories that we've seen that take place over the course of the Clone Wars, what we're kind of left with is the realization that if it weren't for the fact that the Separatists were comically evil.
Right.
And
yeah, they were every archetype of goofy
they're
bad
literally
guy.
like they're killing cute little monkey people and like involved in space chattel slavery and committing genocides left and right and developing bioweapons.
Yeah.
Right.
Like if the separatists were not comically evil and a sock puppet army created by the Dark Lord of the Sith, run by a bunch of corporate oligarchs. Yeah, don't get me started on him. The only person I have more beef with here than Scotty is ATG3. The separatists would have been the good guys. Like
Right.
you cannot. I don't think you can make a meaningful argument for the case of the Republic that does not hinge on the separatists committing the most heinous, vile acts we see across the franchise.
Yeah.
And I think that to create a more meaningful dichotomy, you don't force Count Dooku to be seriously, yeah, that's what it feels like by the end of the show. Like, you know, it's all, you know, our heroes are across the galaxy and the evil Count Dooku, you know, like look me in my eyes and call Mina Bonteri evil. You can't.
So you know what's
can't.
interesting
She's
about
right.
what you're saying there, and honestly, it's your impression that actually kind of pushed me over the ledge on it, is that it's so there was this whole discourse going on about whether or not Thrawn was evil or not on Twitter, which honestly, it's the first time I'm going to take the win because I didn't get involved. As hard as it was for me to stay away, anybody who knows me
That's
knows.
growth. I'm proud of you.
If there's discourse, I'm
Sending
getting
you
involved.
flowers, Pete. We're gonna send you flowers, and they're all gonna be blue and red, just like that.
But where was I going with this? Yes, I mean it's interesting to look at Dooku, especially with the Tales of the Jedi stuff.
Oh yeah.
Because I felt like Jedi Lost started to pull in that direction, but I wasn't sold. But
Yeah.
I love your point that from a story development, if we step back at this, you know, there's so many different ways to look at Star Wars. We often look at it as a world history of a world that didn't exist. But if you look at it from a pure story standpoint, painting Dooku the way they did, it almost makes, right? You could almost say killing him the way Anakin did, it's not bad enough that Anakin chopped off his head because the Emperor said to do it or Palpatine said to do it, and it was just the wrong choice for a Jedi to make. It might have been against the wrong guy. Now, you can't say Dooku was a good guy, right? You can't go down that road. But you can,
That's fair.
at least you can understand why he was kind of, and I think that's the missing point, and maybe this is another hot take for me, and that's the missing point of the prequels, is people miss the point that the Jedi were not doing a good job. The Jedi were failing at their job. They were blinded by themselves. And Dooku saw that and it was forced to either I go with the Jedi or I go with the Sith to get to what is right. And he didn't get to either place, to be honest, right? So
And I think that and again, it makes him a more tragic character. It makes him a more sympathetic character, and it makes Anakin's decision to kill him more tragic. And I think it also makes the Sidious's grand plan less cartoonish. That he's playing both sides. If Sidious helps lay the groundwork for the CIS to exist, that's enough. Because you've proven the Republic is not effective as a government. So now we have this separatist state opposing it. So he can then centralize power as the Emperor eventually and go, okay, we failed as a democracy. You made a joke about Trump earlier, you know, I alone can fix the problem. That mentality. So you have Palpatine go like, okay, the Republic fell apart because of democracy. Give me centralized power. And not only will I prevent this threat from ever existing, I'll protect you from a threat like this. It's also an easier way to keep heaping blame on the Jedi to keep Dooku kind of at arm's length. It also makes Anakin's murder of him, if you keep that element in place, more tragic. Because again, you're looking at somebody who left the Order because he was disgusted by the institutional rot of both the Jedi Order and the Republic, kind of following the same path as Anakin. You know, it is the, you know, almost like clout tweet, you know, analysis of the prequels at this point, that all three of the big bads in the prequel trilogy, save for Palpatine, are a reflection of Darth Vader.
Yep.
You have Darth Maul, who is piloted by nothing but seething anger and hatred. You have Count Dooku, who's a fallen Jedi, and you have General Grievous, who is a Jedi hunting cyborg. So to have Dooku just not fully turn to the dark side, like, you know, Dark Jedi, not necessarily a good person, but like he's not comically evil either, and not allowing him to be complicit in all of these like horrible, horrible crimes, but just people that Sidious set up. Not that he's controlling, he just set him up.
But you sort of pointed at a very interesting thing, right? If you look at to the point that was made earlier about Palpatine being almost too much of a mustache twirly flat villain, right? Well, I kind of agree with that, but we'll put that to the side for a moment. And if you look at previous apprentices or all of his apprentices, you have Maul, who is driven by hate and revenge 100%, which is actually kind of cool, and where they took his character was brilliant. I've been saying lately that he's the Joker of Star Wars, right? He's there for chaos, he is there for pure revenge and evil. You have Anakin, who is driven by revenge in a way, but he's driven by honestly love and trying to, if you really break down what he's trying to do, he's doing it wrong, but he's doing it for the right reasons. Is it okay to say that?
Half the hell is paved with good intentions. Yeah.
Right. And then you have Sidious, who kind of like almost accidentally became a Sith because it was the only road that he felt was appropriate.
Yeah.
I don't
the
know.
Dooku
And
thing too. I'm sorry, Pete. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, please go.
The Dooku thing is so complex and so deep. I don't know. For anyone that needs to consider the fact that Tales of the Jedi does show a character that wasn't crushed yet, you know, he also kind of guided Qui-Gon into the perspective that Qui-Gon has in the Phantom Menace of like the Order. Don't even worry about the Council. That's
right.
None of it. Like that. I don't care about having a seat in the Council. That's nothing for me. And like the fact that we get a conversation between those two and to see the different paths they both take. And it's so cool because in Tales of the Jedi, you see how much Dooku wanted to stand up to oppression, and he does. You know, he saves that whole entire little cell of people that were in that barn. He's like, "No, you're not going to kill them. I'm going to stop you from killing them." You know, which taught him a valuable lesson. But the problem with all of that, at least to me, is that then you see Bad Batch episode 1 and 2.
Exactly.
There you go. Sereno has been torn apart because of Dooku's greedy nature, and we even hear that man even talk about it. You know, he's like, "Yeah, we're not all like him." You know, we need to see more than just who he is to see who we are. So
yeah,
I don't
and
know.
like
It's very cool.
In his current form, like there is a valuable, you know, showing of like what happens to disillusioned youth, mainly like a lot of like, you know, disillusioned, you know, younger white men, where you have people who kind of reach that conclusion of, you know, the way the system operates right now benefits the wealthy, benefits, you know, a certain upper crest of society, with me at kind of as it's, you know, who's being hurt to their benefit. Now I can go one of two ways about this. I can advocate to help people out of this system, or I can want to ingratiate myself within the system. And there's a lot of people who become so disillusioned by the very act of advocating against the system that they do not realize how far they end up in the other direction.
Correct.
You know, like again, the empire's partially based on Nazi Germany. That's why the Nazi Party called themselves the National Socialist Party, because they knew that language, that populist language, would appeal to the masses. And it's the same thing Dooku does in a lot of ways, is that he's trying so hard to appeal to the masses. What we as the audience haven't gotten to see yet is at what point he goes from like believing what he's saying to, oh, the separatist movement will be a great way to rip the galaxy apart and put the Jedi in the most dangerous situation they've ever been in. It's interesting, but I think it would make him a more fascinating character and a more fascinating foil to be arced over all of these stories, books, comics, TV, movies, if he meant it. If he meant what he was saying the whole time,
But he did.
you know, and how do you look him in the eyes and tell him he's wrong? Because by the time
Mm-hmm.
he's dead and Order 66 comes down, Dooku was right.
Yeah,
if he means what he
you're right.
says, Dooku was right. But
100%.
in his current form, like he's just kind of this like patsy who, like, the more we learn about him, the more fascinating he becomes, but the more contradictory he also becomes, because we see him throw in with the Sith and then like you said, add the Bad Batch onto it, where he goes, some corruption like yours must be snuffed out from the galaxy, as he is about to summarily execute a senator in broad daylight.
Yeah.
To, here is my castle full of war chests, I have pillaged my own home world. It's I see the trajectory of the character, but I think it would be all the more meaningful and fascinating for him to have believed what he was saying and not directly work for Sidious. And I think it also like makes the lineage of like Dooku to Qui-Gon to Obi-Wan to Anakin even more fascinating.
It does.
Yep.
God, I like that. Jared,
really
that was
did.
a really good perspective. And we had talked about this privately before, but I never heard you explain it in such a, I don't know, analytical, but also very reflective way. That was nice. Thank you.
Yeah, if
It
you
was
want
a great
more,
hot take. It's
yeah,
a very valid one.
if you want more thinking like this, make sure you're subscribed to the Nerd Academy, because this is the kind of stuff you guys do. This is great stuff. You guys had a really great conversation with Alden Diaz about 6 months ago about just the Phantom Menace and some of the things. So a really good deep conversation. This is why I'm sorry you were at the end, but I'm glad you got the extra time, because I love.
I'm glad too. I love to listen to myself speak, so I'm glad I got the time too.
Can't stand you.
Hey, April, hey.
Well, I want to thank you so much for hanging out with us, Jared. This was fantastic, and we will. I gotta have you on again sometime. This was a blast, man.
Oh, I'd be honored. Thank you, guys.
All right, dude. Thanks. Take care.
Bye, buddy. I don't like him.
Well, no, I know you don't. Horrible person, but no, he's actually, it's funny.
One of the best.
He's definitely one of those people that I just love talking to, love his opinions, even when I don't always agree with them. They're well thought out, and honestly, that's been one of the cool things about tonight. It's been people who have come in with their good opinions and thought out as well. So I think we're gonna wrap up. We've been on. This has become a jumbo size episode. So this was a lot of fun. I'm so glad all of you guys to hang out with us. Scotty, tell us a little bit about Bombad Cast before we wrap up.
Well, you know me. The Bombad Cast is what we refer to as our Thursday show. And if you go to subscribe to the Bombad Cast, you get all kinds of cool things. Obviously, we do a show called Bombad Gaming where we play video games. And then we've got Hyperfocus. Actually, funny enough, tomorrow Jerry's bringing back some Hyperfocus with That Gay Jedi, Chase Hauser. So they're going to be on, and it's going to be really awesome. Happy to be there. It does similar things. You can bring people in and hang out too. So if you enjoyed this, you may enjoy that. It's very loose. I like it. But yeah, no, Bombad Cast has got some good stuff coming in the works. Obviously, next week got Brian Barry on to talk about Bobby Wygant again, one of our favorites,
oh, awesome.
And to watch her Empire Strikes Back coverage. But I'm glad to be here. For those that don't know and are watching this for the first time, Pete and I and Chris and Nick and a ton of other people put together this event called Podathon, and it's a charity event that benefits Make-A-Wish. And it's funny, I don't think I've been on screen with you, Pete, maybe once or twice, but a minute since.
I don't think since Podathon. Yeah, I think it's been a while.
September. So that being so, we had Ryan Johnson. So if you haven't checked out any, Seth Green came on Bombadcast. Like if you're new to all this and you're watching me for the first time, or Chris with Broaxium, or Pete for the first time, if you happen to stumble upon this, boy, you're lucky. You found some great content creators.
That's awesome, man.
Say myself.
So cool. Yeah.
Also, stay Bombad. Everyone, stay Bombad. Oh my God, you guys stay Bombad.
Chris, I ask you every week, what's happening with Broaxium this week, buddy?
Well, we've got our unrefined Broaxiums, our 55 seconds or less, just takes on Star Wars or anything we want to talk about. Be it a Bad Batch, our feelings on Bad Batch, or just anything Star Wars related. We got Shooting the Poodle on Sunday nights live. I think we're going to be talking the Mando trailer and a couple other things going down. I know Dan and I are going to be talking about the Titan show because no one covers any DC stuff, and that's criminal. So and that's very criminal. So we're going to be doing that. DC's better than Marvel. Sorry, that's my hot take.
Yeah, we didn't even get to your hot take tonight.
No, you didn't.
But you know, Chris,
anyway, next week we also have quick. No.
The people in the chat are telling us that they want another one of these episodes.
EW.
We're going to do another one.
Yeah.
We're going to do another one.
Let's do it.
And we'll lead with your hot take.
That's right.
I feel horrible now.
Yeah.
I mean, not that bad. I'll get over it for sure. But
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
I'm just saying,
absolutely.
yeah. So, all right, cool. Well, on Around the Galaxy this week, we have Nick hosting the episode, and it's with Brandon Wynardi. And we from Talking Bay 94, cool guy. We have another couple episodes. And as I wanted to allude to earlier, if you are thinking about becoming a patron at Around the Galaxy for as little as $3 a month, you can join us in the live studio virtual audience when we record. We are just booking dates now for two really fun guests. I'm not going to say that they're not like Mark Hamill level, but they are very cool, very unique guests. And if you want to be a part of that, we would love to have you. But gentlemen, this has been so much fun. We will definitely do another hot take episode. And Scotty, we're gonna have you back. You're gonna have to be our hot take guy, man. I appreciate it so much. And Chris, I normally go to Nick, but I'm gonna go to you. May the force be with you.
Always.
Just one more round, friend, then homeward bound, friend. Don't forget me in your dreams. Just one more song, friend, and then so long, friend. The nights get shorter, it seems. Just one more rhyme, friend. Yes, it's a crime, friend. But you know time, friend. Time can fly. So it's good night, friend. Good night, but not goodbye.